Greetings, everybody. My name is Legitimacy Russell. Welcome to another episode of our podcast series where we're talking to a number of development partners, civil society, private sector, government, and all the other stakeholders really that the UN works with. Today, we're here with civil society, and I'm joined by Mayor Amanda, the UN resident coordinator in Lesotho, and Ate SK from LCN. Thank you for joining this episode. Enjoy the conversation. Um, Me, Amanda, and Dade SK, we were in a meeting the other day together, and we were talking about really the role of the private sector as the voice of the people. And in that context, what does a strong civil society look like? And why is it essential for democracy?
Do you want to take that one first?
Yes, please.
Okay. I knew that you would say that.
Yeah, a strong society is the one that people can rely on, the one that people can trust, that it truly represents their aspirations. A strong society is the one that when it talks, nobody feels like it has double standards. Nobody feels like it is saying these in this manner because today the incumbent is a certain one or group or party. Is the one that people would come to it to say, we have done every other thing. It has not worked. It has not changed our situation. Let's run to civil society, and they know that civil society would act on their behalf. A strong civil society is the one that does not meddle in party politics. It's the one that political arena understands and listens to and comes to for guidance in terms of whether, even when they are not, there's nothing wrong, they come to you to say, in your view, how do you foresee us? Are we still on the right track? What do people say about the way we are functioning as a government? Here I'm talking about government, not political party, not the ruling party, the government as a whole, parliament, judiciary, all three arms of government. That's a strong society. It's the one that even the region knows that in Lesotho we have civil society that when he talks, when he says something, it is not jeopardized by or influenced by any other factor, but facts as they are. So that's a strong society, and it is important for democracy because once that it happens like that, our democracy becomes a very strong one, and people know that there are checks and balances. And it's a third sector, like you said, people believe in it, and they know that even if they're away from as their rights holders, they know that it will hold duty bearers accountable so that democracy flourishes.
Okay. Can I also add?
Yes, you can. May.
I think I want to add to what Ndate SK said, but maybe let me start from a different perspective. For me, I think a strong civil society is one that is grounded in the lived realities of Basotho, of citizens, of people in that country. And you see, I think sometimes when we talk about civil society, people think we're talking about one or two NGOs.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. Civil society is organically grown out of the struggles and opportunities of people, whether it's in rural communities, whether it's in urban areas. What you see is they come together to solve problems together that face them. And over time, some of them remain as very sort of ground level, community level, and others organize themselves into more institutionalized entities, because that's what we need to be able to deal with the other stakeholders, like dealing with the private sector, like dealing with government, and like dealing with even development partners and the UN. Yeah. You need more structured civil society organizations. But I think it's important for me that if we're looking at a strong civil society sector, it must have different elements: community-based organizations, faith-based organizations. It needs to have really big umbrella bodies, thematic representation in terms of different specialization. And it must have movements, because movements are part of civil society, right? And the reason why it becomes really critical, I think, is a point that you talked about, that in a thriving democracy, you have the elected, you have the private sector, and then you have this third sector that really comes, I don't want to say as a voice of people, but as the experience, the lived experience of people. When people are suffering, they speak for themselves, and they speak for themselves through some of these entities, right? And that's why it's really important to have not just a strong civil society, but an environment, a policy and legal environment that allows civil society to flourish and be productive, and accompany and work together for the development of the country. That's where I would sort of come in on that. And for us as the UN, it's really important to partner with civil society at different levels, because when there's a gap or a deficit, for example, in services, what we see is civil society standing in that gap. When there are disasters that happen, let's say there's a drought or there's a flood, civil society are not coming from point A to point B to come and help. They are within the community. So they are your first line and your last line of defense. And that's why, for me, civil society is so critical.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. You spoke about government, right? When you answered that question, and I know that in Lesotho, it has been acknowledged that it's sometimes not so easy for civil society to engage with government, especially because I think sometimes the civic space can sometimes, because of that, feel constrained. And so, Nade SK, maybe if you can tell us briefly, how would you describe the current space for civil engagement in Lesotho? And what does this mean for your ability as civil society to be able to represent your communities?
Yeah. The space we are operating in, it's a volatile one in this context because it is not grounded on laws and regulations and policies. So it's fluid. That's the word. It's fluid. It is only grounded on Basotho motto of that in the region is going to be called Ubuntu, Mutoki Mutokabato. So that's why we easily navigate. Otherwise, if we can get a hostile someone at the helm, it will be difficult without rules of engagement. But truly speaking, when you assess and you compare, because when you talk about shrinking space, you will compare yourself with the region, you will compare yourself with countries with a similar or alike economies like that in the region. Really, ours is not as bad as theirs. We can freely express ourselves here. And I always say when I'm in the region that I don't fear that if I criticize, if I say something when they have not done it right, and I point it that this is not how Lesotho, like it's been said in this conversation that we shouldn't be, it shouldn't be people and us. We are part of the people, a part and parcel of what the people are suffering. So when I express such, I don't feel that I'm threatened to some extent. However, we are moving. We are moving towards where this space is open and it's helped by policies and government and laws that it doesn't depend on the will of the person, because if you get someone with a bad will, if there's something like that, we will suffer a lot. So that's the work that we are doing earnestly as civil society to ensure that we have the civil society policy, and also we are well aware that the Constitution has been amended. The 10th Amendment provides that space. So ours is to ensure that the parliamentary acts are there, and enabling legal environment is there, so that what the constitution provides is able to be implemented. So there are a number of laws that we need to be pushing, and what we are doing is that we are working with Parliament on private members' bills and also with ministries to push laws to open the space. Otherwise, it will shrink more than it will, especially when people that come into politics are not very strong in terms of political exposure and knowing that indeed there is a third sector called civil society that needs and also have a role to play in development. Otherwise, we are still navigating.
Okay, and on that point, I'm wondering, Memenda, Ndade SK, you're mentioning that the current landscape of civil society is fluid. And I'm just wondering, you've been in civil society for many years, even before the UN. And so, in terms of navigating this space, what are some of your takeaways? Perhaps previously, are these the civil society policy? Can we use that as an example for navigating and policies and laws?
You see, maybe about three things that I want to say, and sort of it will be interesting to hear what you think. One, in every country, in different countries, civil society is also shaped by the culture of that particular country, right? So, for example, in that SK, you talked about, the space, the freedom to speak without fear. When you look at one of the traditions that are found here in Lesotho, the concept of having pitals, and it's not just that you bring people together, but that anybody, it doesn't matter whether they're rich, they're poor, they're old, they're young, can get up, put their hand and say, I want to say something. And that voice is respected. It is, they're able to do that. I think what I have seen is that concept, that thread, you can see it in how Basotho speak, right? And I think that should be guarded jealously, because we shouldn't take it for granted. I have been in meetings in villages where, the chief will get up to speak, but somebody will be sitting there, an elderly woman or a young girl, and they'll say, no, I want to speak. And they will be allowed to speak, and their voice matters. So that's something that is really important, that helps to navigate the space. And I think as the UN, it's very important for us to understand what that social fabric is. I think the second thing that I wanted to say is I have noticed, especially the sort of organized civil society organizations like the Lesotho Council of NGOs, that on two occasions, for example, that I want to give, there have been many occasions, but I want to give two examples. In the national reforms process, that civil society has been vocal. They've been able to come and say, this is what we think people are saying. This is what we can bring to the table. And I think very few people maybe understand just the impact of that voice and the importance of that voice. And I have seen it actually in Lesotho taking shape and really speaking out. For us as the UN, in 2023, you remember that we were coming up with our new cooperation framework. Yeah. And we brought everybody together. And it wasn't an easy conversation, because when you invite people into your kitchen and say, help us to see what is not working, you have to be prepared to hear the good and the bad.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember that time you were telling us, yourselves, the trade unions, the unions, they were telling us, we need the UN to do this. This is what is important to us. And personally, again, following your question, Where civil society really functions well is when it's not just that their voices are heard, but they can see that they're valued through the actions that you then change and the difference that you make. Last thing that worries me, at least here in Lesotho, is I'm not yet sure whether we have the sustainability framework for civil society. Yes. Okay. When I say sustainability, is what is the financing framework that ensures civil society remains independent and vocal and positively informing development without having to focus on predominantly looking for money. Right. So I think that's a conversation that I don't know what you think, but that's where
you're quite on point, because really the amount of time we spend on looking for funding, which is not readily available anywhere, it negates the good work that we should be doing and concentrating and contributing into our development. Little time when we are stable and are contributing to development and edging that things, implementation be there with the policies, you realize a huge difference that indeed society is pushing that the government serves the people as it ought to be, because the resources are there. At times, it is heart bleeding to see sometimes that ministries will return huge chunk of funding because there was no civil society holding the ministry by hand to implement together to encourage that let's move. At times it becomes very difficult even for for the government employees. They are human, but if they have someone saying, no, you're on the right track, push for it. Under the circumstances, push. People need this service. So really, as a society, we have a directors forum. We are beginning debates about the sustainability as to how we get sustained, and we are finalizing our concepts that we are bringing to government. And people have been saying no, it can't be government. But we are saying, I take a very simple analogy to say, but parliamentarians, they get their funding from the money is taxpayers. So if we can understand that the money is taxpayers, but the government is there to run how the money is used, the MPs, regardless of they are from ruling party or opposition, they get from the same. But do they toe the government line? The answer is not. And you can't say, the government can't say, we are paying you, so you need to be towing our line. The judiciary, it gets money there. It gets money from the national coffers, public payers. And for it to get money there does not mean that there's someone now who comes to say, because you get money, and then you need to talk. So similarly, civil society and the private sector as well, there's so much that we need to be doing with the private sector that they don't know what we are doing and how their businesses can even flourish more when there's stability in the country and there is flourishing democracy. So we need to be exploring some of these avenues, because sustainability is very important for flourishing democracy and for development of the country.
Okay. Ndadeske, you've spoken about something very important. And looking at finances, we all know that the purse is shrinking globally, and we're probably seeing the effects of that here in Lesotho as well. And I just would want to know, how do you think the shrinking purse has affected the country, and what does it mean for communities that rely on these organizations?
It's a terrible one. Truth be told, there was 2007, 2008, 2009, there was global recession. It hit us during those times, but it's nothing compared to what is happening here. The difference between then and now is that it was happening when multilateralism was flourishing. today, unilateralism that the world is preaching. I'm happy today we have this podcast today when the world has converged in Dubai, trying to talk about how the world should be ruled in terms of ensuring that not only the powerful ones survive, because it is not the survival of the fittest. We have laws that the UN has had and has gathered against the rights of people, so that beyond 1945, when it was formed, the laws were there to ensure that not only the mighty ones would swallow the smaller ones. So that is being challenged today, and it is seen from the financial issues, like you're saying, shrinking finances for countries, and it has now coming back home. It has hit home with the communities that we serve. One, there are no services that are getting to the communities, because the people that were providing that, Mayor Amanda talked about the important issue that we supplement where government does not have ways and means to get to. Those have stopped now. And when that happens, it means that you have people that were working that have now joined into the unemployment percentages. And once that happens, it means now you expect down the line rate of crime, and the people that have been supported, not necessarily that these ones that are working are going to get into crime, but the people they were relying on them. Now there would be nothing, and it means now the government is going to have a lot of money to curb the crime, and it means now that if that money we can target to say what is the net effect of the money we're going to use to curb crime, that we could use to support civil society, so that those do not happen at the magnitude that they would if there was no civil society in the villages. So really we need to be thinking around as a country to say what are the new innovations for us to, and therefore we can't have a business as usual. If we were able to say people should come here and get it very easy with the resources and things like those, these are changing times. We need to be rethinking about our water, rethinking about our resources, so much that the little that we have also, and then they have to be monitored as to where these gains should be, and close the leakages that we would have, because we no longer have luxury of one company. For instance, one company or one ministry, they would have 5 vehicles come into my office to deliver a letter, each one of those to deliver a letter, because they are from different departments. So under the circumstances, we need to be coordinating, strong coordination with the ministry, so that when there are 5 letters that are coming to UN, 5 letters that are coming to LCN, one vehicle does that. But today, one department goes, the other one goes, as if we still have money to support that expenditure. So we need to change.
Maybe better still, we can digitalize.
Yes.
Maybe we don't need the vehicles to go around. We can say, you do your letter, sign it, scan it, send it by email.
And that amount of petrol and wear and tear of the vehicles would go a long way into supporting some of these services that are no longer supported from outside.
But I have a follow-up.
Yeah.
Something that you talked about in terms of, it sounds like, everybody needs to do something. I think my question and my challenge here has been, is civil society itself coordinated? I know that you're an umbrella body network, but there are so many others. And so, for example, in my office, I could get several letters from different.
Why are you talking about the point I would talk about when I say what is your view about UN and therefore in terms of relationship with civil society? Because I was exactly that point to say.
But let me finish my question.
Okay, please.
Yes, because you see, I think that's at a time when the purse that we've been talking about, the global purse, is shrinking. It doesn't necessarily mean that the domestic purse is necessarily shrinking, but we can talk about that. It means that the resources are limited. It means that we have to do more things. We have to optimize and leverage each other's strengths So you can't have a concept note from 5 different organizations all working on women, or 10 different concept notes, letters for support, or, things like that. So my question is, because that's a conversation that even within the UN we're also having. We're having that conversation in terms of one UN. So that we stop this thing of, I come as a WHO, tomorrow UNFPA, the following day UNAIDS, UNDP, UNICEF, to the same community, the same entity, because it means that the transaction burden on that community or on that entity is too much. So we are beginning to, not just beginning, we've been asking ourselves that question. How can we do better? And we've adopted the joint program approach. But I think we're not there yet, at least not personally, not to my satisfaction. So similarly, what's happening within civil society and what can we do better together so that we're not just pointing fingers at government and saying they need to, to optimize, to be much more prudent in terms of the use of resources. We also need to be much more prudent in terms of how we're using resources and how we're coming together. That
2 things.
Yes.
First, it's been promoted highly, this silo approach, by partners, by UN, by every person. And sometimes not aware of, they're doing it, trying to do good, not aware that they're doing harm. In what manner? Because there's this very good concept that this individual, organization, or civil society entity brings, and therefore they're saying we need to be pushing our agenda, that we are here as an entity whose mandate is to ensure education of our children, especially younger ones. So there's this organization that talks exactly to that. And for such an agency, it's a plus for them. So that when I'm saying they're promoting it, inadvertently they are doing it not to do harm, to help the communities. So even in government, even in private sector, they are doing that. So that promotes it, and for us to be fully united, it becomes difficult. So to ask me a question, how is coordination, as a coordinator, do you feel that you are on top of a game, you are coordinating? The answer is that no. The answer is that no. That's the second point. In Lesotho, the legal framework allows everyone in terms of in civil society to go solo. But let's take in the legal fraternity, our counterpart is law society. You can't just practice if you are not registered within. Let's go to nursing. You can't practice without having registered. But with civil society, there's nothing that obliges anyone to be part of the coordination. So we are working very hard for the people that we have. We thank them that they believe in coordinated framework, but as a result, we will not achieve it as long as everyone comes. Today, I was saying we are submitting a proposal. If I can tell you about so many organizations that between November and now that are coming even from Europe to register to be local NGOs so that they can manage to apply for this fund, because the funding is reinvest for Lesotho, local only. So they could not apply for it from elsewhere. So they needed to come and register. So they, some of them had audacity to come to my office for me to help them register so that they compete with the ones that I coordinate. But what would I do? I help them to register because the law says you are able.
But I just want to come to that point so that we don't lose it. I know Tumi wants to ask another question, but this is something that is extremely important. When I was, the days when I was in civil society, we were very cognizant of the fact that you have to protect local civil society, right? Part of the grand bargain that was agreed in Istanbul was localization.
Yes.
Really going and looking at locally grown civil society organizations, NGOs, community, and ensuring that they are capacitated. Because what happened during COVID? During COVID, those who were international left.
Yes. Yes.
That's what happened. They got into the, and they left.
Yes.
And who remained behind?
The locals.
Yes. And so we need to really strengthen that. And for me, of course, I'm with the UN, and therefore I will speak positively about the UN. But truly, I think this is where the UN can really make a big difference.
Yeah.
To civil society. We work with government. We partner with the private sector. With civil society, I think let's come to the table together and say we need our capacity. And I'm not talking about, we do a workshop here and a workshop there. We need civil society capacity to be developed institutionally.
I was coming to say institutional capacity.
Yes.
So that there are institutions there.
Yes. And so that because when you are strong as different civil society, including the community-based organizations, we have climate change. I went to Mafeteng. It was Mafeteng?
It was me.
And the deforestation and the gullies and the dongles, that's so deep. When I came in 2022, I went to go and visit. And I was taken around by a group of women and some men, mainly women, and they were taking me around and they were saying, this is what we're trying to do. Okay, we have organized ourselves. We are trying to grow trees. We're trying to ensure that there's no more additional deforestation. We're trying to reclaim the wetlands and reclaim the land. That was 2022. There was just deep, deep, deep valleys. I went there 2024. Yeah, 2024. And you could see a big difference. And I remember asking them, so which department do you work for in government?
Yeah.
And the woman looks at me, this, May said to me, May, I don't work for the government. I don't work for any of you. I'm a member of the community and we've organized ourselves. We've been supported. But we've realized that if we don't do this for ourselves, our children, our livelihoods are going to be impacted. So for me, we have to identify those opportunities and support them to be strong so that when disasters come, they're resilient. They can bounce back, not just bounce back, but bounce back better. I think that's where my heart is. Yeah.
Have you seen the deforestation that is happening right in town? Along the Kingsway,
yes,
the trees are being cut like there's no tomorrow. Along the road that goes to Parliament, trees are cut. And we're talking about this thing of resilience during disasters. And so we have a lot of work to do, like you're saying, and especially at the community level to make them. This is what we mean by community system strengthening as a society, because strengthening the communities, it would mean that they can do on their own, and that comes with levels until it comes to the national civil society organizations that are dealing with policy now.
Exactly.
But from the grassroots level, that should happen, and that is the role that we need to be playing, and we need to come to, like, I totally agree that we need to come to a table to say, now at least UN has pledged to operating or implementing UN as one. So because it has begun that journey, it will be easier now to come to a table to say, one, now that they're operating as one, let us reduce the cost, implementing costs, by saying they are organized formations. Because even if these are conversations that we need to go, even if you tell me that I need to work with this organization, I need to work with this. It is not the UN role to be coordinating 1 and 2. But if it goes through the organized structure, it means that you will still be implementing through that organization, but that organization is now coordinated elsewhere, and the reports are coming timely because there is someone who's doing that work for you. So this will reuse the cost drastically in so doing.
But also it means that it means you're capacitating the coordinating bodies,
Yes.
the bodies that convene.
Yeah.
Right. I know, there's this phrase that we like to use that, as civil society, we have to work, and it's not just civil society. I think even the UN, how do we work ourselves out of?
Yes, that's our motto. Working yourself out.
Yeah. How do we do that? And we do that by making sure that actually the local fabric is strong.
Yeah.
Right? It's strong, it's coordinated, and irrespective of whether it's in the cities like Maseru or in the mountains like in Mohotlong. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we
No,
left
it's
you
okay.
out.
When you're talking about coordination, I was just wondering to myself whether, because you said it's not so good, right? But I think when you plan nationally, does that always translate into coherence at the community level? Because I think you can do all that coordination and planning nationally, but when you go to the ground, it just simply doesn't translate.
That's the reason why we're talking about strengthening the local, because at the national level, much as I'm saying, it is not at a level where I'm proud of it, but when you look at it at the national level, it's far much better. The communities, when you get there, like you're saying, this bomb method are doing a very good job there. Sometimes even if you were to ask them, do you know about the coordinated mode? They would say sometimes, oh, no, we don't know. They're never been here. So that is the gray area that we need to strengthen, so that even an agency, when it comes, they tell that, yes, but we need to be reporting on daily basis to this coordinating body. Are they aware that you are here? What is your relationship with them? Then we realize that it is so important to be doing it as a coordinated effort. So really we need to strengthen the grassroots as it should be.
And I think there are some good examples in that. So, for example, this project that we're doing together, the peace building, the Secretary General's Peace Building Fund, where we've got resources to address some of the issues of violence in communities, in terms of community policing. And from the UN, we've come together, 3 agencies have come together. Right? So you have UN Women, you have OHCHR, and then you've got UNDP.
Correct.
And they've come together, not that this one I'll do my own thing, no, but really thinking together, what our respective strengths that we can bring to the table. I think the thing that I like is that it's not just that us as the UN, we have 3 agencies working together, but there's civil society in there, there are traditional leaders in there, there's government in there, the police are involved, faith-based is involved. And so it's and that's why I started off earlier on in my first response that the civil society is grounded and grows out of the communities, right? Because the solutions most of the time have to be whole systems solutions. It means that they have to be all of society. You cannot, I'm the same woman, I live in a place where there is no food. I'm the same woman, access to health is difficult. I'm the same woman, taking my children to school is very difficult, is a nightmare. I'm the same woman, I'm not able to travel because so you can't bring me 20 organizations.
Yes.
I am not able to do that, right? To respond effectively. And then you say, oh, we tried to help that one, but things didn't work. No, because you were making me run around, right? But
we call it commit fatigue. Yeah.
So, but if we all come together and we say, okay, what is the package that is needed?
Yeah.
Not just to give, it's not a question of giving, because, Ndate, people in communities, they want their dignity.
Yes.
They're not asking for handouts.
Yeah.
They want you to come and let me hold your hand so that, it's a bit like you're trying to go up and somebody says, here's my hand, so that you can lift up and then be able to walk on your own.
Correct.
That's what they want. Nobody wants to go out and just be receiving handouts. So let's use this moment in time to transform, to say we can do better, right? For me, of course, my time in Lesotho is up. But I believe that together in the last 4 years, we have put some foundations in place. Yes. Now, what we have to make sure is that we don't leave, those houses that you see somebody started building 17 years ago, and they put the foundation and then they'll run out of money and then they just left it like that. No, we need to find ways of building blocks on the foundations that we have laid, so that Lesotho, I said this in the previous episode, Lesotho has no business being poor.
It doesn't. I always said we provide solutions that are for temporary challenges. We provide lifelong solutions for temporary. We are a small population, only 2 million mouths to feed. So we have no reason to be poor. It's just that we are operating in silos across. And once we can coordinate like we are talking about, then it would mean that the savings that we would have would now put youth into where they should be. The number of youth, half of them would be like the youth that are hosting us now, that are in digital conversation or narratives. And a few of them now would be hired to do office work. So we would have all of them engaged and earning a living. So we don't have a reason to. So this is the build. I agree with you. The building blocks that we have had, it was not a very easy road to traverse. So we need now to be putting blocks on it. And I can only hope, now that you are saying your time is limited here, and in fact it's done, I can only hope that the handover notes that would be passed through into the incumbent would be enough for the incumbent to understand that really we can regress from where we are. And if the incumbent could understand that the groundwork has been done for them, theirs is just to shine now. It will take into the next episode, it will take the country into the next level once we do. But let me promise that in this episode that we will do our bit as well. And we will tell it to say, this is where we were. And because time waits for no one, time got finished, but we were here. So this is what we anticipate, is our expectation. Of course, we'll navigate along what is allowable within the UN, but we'll put our hours to say, this is ours. So yours is to navigate us to, and it will tell us that this one is beyond what is allowable. So we'll get somewhere to say, okay, if this one is not, but these ones are allowable. So let's work on this one. So we'll play our part.
Yes.
As that time arrives. Yeah.
And I think, you see, the other thing that I don't want us to miss, if you allow me, is people always think of innovation and creativity coming from the private sector.
Yeah.
But what I know is that necessity is the mother of invention, in this case, innovation. And that civil society has got the ability to actually innovate. Yes. Okay? And they don't have the capacity to scale up, to take things to scale, but definitely to innovate. And I think that we need to work with civil society in the different sectors to try and tease out the innovation. How are they surviving in the different places? Under the circumstances. Yeah. Despite against the odds, how are they managing to still go and provide for the elderly who live up the mountain in that village of Mshebe?
Right? Yes.
How are they managing? Yeah. You see? And rather than just coming and saying, this is the solution, this is what, how are they managing? In fact, when I went there, I think it was that one, where they said, we don't need labor. we've got people here. What we don't have is cement, right? Now, either you help us with cement or you help us with the way in which we can get this. And then we are going to work on it ourselves. You remember?
Yes.
And this is it was a whole community coming together. And I think sometimes we forget that communities come together. They have got their own governance mechanisms. They have got their own ways of consultations and communications. So we don't have to go and start
No, not at all.
fresh.
Yeah, not at
We
all.
can go and I think that what you see is the UN in Lesotho. I can't speak about everybody else, but the UN in Lesotho, the UN agency funds and programs, truly, they are now positioned to say, let's have a one conversation. So, you know the different UN agencies that if one comes to you and you say, but I know that that one also works on agriculture and that one also works on food systems. And instead of having the conversation with you, can you bring your colleagues so that we have one conversation? I'm going to bring the 15 NGOs that work in this area, right? Then it becomes a partnership of equals, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we need to get to.
Yes. No, Mayor Menda, maybe just going back a little bit, I really like the example that you used of the lady that we met in Mafding, because you could see she was a leader in her own right. And I think going back to the small civil society organizations, right? I think how can we help them to move from being implementers and to rather being, strategic actors that can be on decision-making tables, especially the small ones?
Maybe not to remove them from their niche, but help them to be part of the decision-making processes so that they inculcate their day-to-day work and they know that they have a funnel to channel this into the decision-making processes. Yes, of course, we have a concept here of decentralization policy, a very good policy that would enable what you're talking about. But now the question is, in the meantime, when it is we are not fully decentralized in terms of, because they are saying the government, not only this one, but they are saying it's expensive, that model, that the devolution model that we are aspiring. So we need now to do the very same things that we're talking about here, improve on coordination, so that when they are coordinated now, there is someone now who comes to them and now enables them to come to the decision-making processes. During the days, we used to have what we call community parliament. Okay. A community parliament was a very strong tool where ordinary people would be coming. The way it is that you come to different localities and say to people, imagine yourself as a minister of finance. And we have a way of saying the purse is only this much. You can't enlarge it. The purse is this much. These are the problems. Now you are a minister. So that would put them in the shoes of line ministers and say, wow, these people have to do this difficult decision, but they're saying prioritize now. And the communities would prioritize their needs to say, prioritize up to number 5, your needs. If you're which one will you give more and followed by which one until the last? They will do that superbly. And now, after that, we'll take representatives from all communities, and more than 300 people will bring to town. And now they present, we take that those things of theirs, and even their questions to ministers all in time, and the ministers prepare responses. So the ministers would line, and the ordinary people in that parliament, now they would put their things before ministers and PSs. So people will be saying, I am this 70-year-old, I've never talked with the director of a ministry, let alone a minister and a PS. So then we'll be following up on the next budget as to what extent would that be. When you come to Kachasnek, there are these 2 bridges that you no longer go through Maharzug, you go through Smongo. There are those 2 bridges of Sinkuy and Sinkunyan. The community parliament came here for more than 3 years. The people from those areas, they will say our priority number 1, bridge, priority number 2, bridge, bridge, up to 5. They will say, but they're saying, no, we want bridges for these 2. And until one community parliament, the whole country was saying, the people from this place
They want a bridge.
So they were saying, as a community parliament, now the country one, our priorities are 5. Bridge, bridge, bridge. And then we went to government, and government put that bridge, those 2 bridges into the budget. And today, as we speak, the bridges are there. And then we went to other places. So that is the one way of it, making sure that the people have the say, even up to influencing policy.
But is there something that we are missing then, that because sometimes I find that we are speaking, sometimes we focus on the challenges, the problems, the things that are not working, and the narrative that becomes public and out there becomes a narrative that makes it look like, there's nothing that is working. It's just gloomy. And yet, I think the example that you've just given in terms of this community parliament and their determination and, of asking for this, and then the response for those from government. These are some of the things where if we talk about them and they're out there as examples where they can be a partnership between the community, the government, and civil society, the UN, and private sector, then actually we can see change. Then maybe others in different communities, in different areas, in Mohale's Hook, in Kuting and stuff like that, they can also begin to say, you know what, it worked there, let's see if it can work here. I think that in a way, I want to come back to the fact that, it's 2026 in January, and we know that the global stage is shaky, but we also know that we've got resources here, right? Let's find those maybe 1, 2, 3, maximum 5 big scale projects or programs where we say, we're civil society, UN, private sector, government, we're coming together on this. This is the plan. It's costed. These are the different roles, and let's implement. And let's see, where we get to. Now, I know that it's happening at a smaller scale. Yeah. But I'm thinking of sort of a large-scale transformation, especially since, it's very sad right now because young people are unemployed. In numbers. And unfortunately, we also see crime levels will go up. Violence goes up because people... I don't want to justify it. And so we need to find a strategy of, it's not just young people finding employment and being employed by somebody, but also it's their ability to create employment for themselves. The Prime Minister Sibabaso is it's a very good initiative. But how can we all leverage, contribute, and make sure that it reaches the 70% of the population that live in rural areas?
Especially now crafted in a manner that it talks to their day-to-day life. Take, for instance, the head boys.
Oh, yes.
The head boys are very good in terms of producing uler mohe. So you don't need to take them away from that,
but create that environment.
Create that environment for them. So, as you're saying, as society, we met the Prime Minister, but now we have a plan to meet cabinet, and then to have this plan to say, as we look into things, this is what we envisage as a society. Can these be upscaled, taking leave from the NSDP too? And also now we know that when that happens, it's agreed at that level, then it would mean that when we come to the UN now, it will be a national plan that has been sanctioned by society and government to say, please let us work together on this one. So much that, like you're saying, the youth are very key in that, and to ensure that, because we're talking of crime, but there is another thing: drug abuse now. Drug abuse now among our youth, and they have become suicidal, and the youth, because they're idling, they're not doing anything, and in numbers, and that also would deteriorate the number of even those that the best brains that we have, because they don't see, they are not motivated to say, I am getting this my A stars and what, but my brother, my sister has gotten them, but is now in the house doing nothing, because there's nothing to do beyond our school level. So that demotivates even the youngest children that are our best brains that would run this country. So we need to do something now, like you're saying, and we take the bait and say we are running with it to do something for this country, really.
And maybe the last thing that I would like to say, unless you've got another question for us, is one example that I always give to people, where I think a major difference. Ndateske, I don't know how old you are, and I'm not asking you to say it on public.
Very old.
Yeah. But I remember the early 90s when the HIV pandemic really devastated families and communities. I was working in Zambia. We used to go with our traditional wrapper to work. You used to keep one because every other day you were at the gravesite, at the cemetery, burying somebody, right? And it was like that. If you look at how Lesotho was impacted and where Lesotho is now, it is an example of a whole systems approach, push, resources coming in from outside, coming in from government, looking at the pandemic holistically, and ensuring that all elements, coordination mechanisms are in place, health mechanisms, education mechanisms. And I think that it's we can learn something from there. And if we learn something from there, really, truly, I think that we can go even further. I'm living Lesotho, but I take Lesotho in my heart with me. I liked the fact that I could walk on the streets of Lesotho, and people used to think I was a Mosotho. So I used to say, yeah, until I opened my mouth and they said, no, this one. But I encourage you as civil society that, claim your space side by side with government, with the UN, and with other development partners. Not behind, not in front, but side by side, so that you can really push the agenda of Moshweshwe the First, of peace and unity and inclusivity.
Yeah, really, the example you ended with, it's a living example, a beacon of hope for us to say we were at that level, and look at where we are now, surpassing the targets. But when you look into the latest DHS, now the gray area there is that the youth 15-24, these are where the new infections are very high. And as civil society organizations, this is where we are dealing with. And we like you're saying, we need to, what we have started is to empower the family fabric. To empower from the family level. And you cannot do that without challenging the challenges that we have had, because that is sometimes a means of survival for the young ones. We are not, like you're saying, we don't justify that, but it's a reality that we need to confront. And as a result, we are pushing forward to say, yes, indeed, our space shrinking as it appeared because of lack of resources, and people felt like, no, civil society coordination is dead because we can no longer hear them and all that. But we became resilient even under circumstances, and now we can see the light out of the end of the tunnel, and we are saying, in this podcast that really would forge ahead against all odds. This country has to be better than it is. And we are looking forward that by 2030, when the whole world takes stock to say, where are we now? And we're not going to jump into it by 2030. We have started now. We're coming for our AGM. And one of the issues that we're going to report was to jealously guard the performance of the SDGs as civil society, so that unlike Vision 2020, but these ones, we have milestones that we put for us so that by 2030, we are already aligning 2060 agenda now, so that 2030 becomes part of milestone towards that. But really, the communities back home, they should understand and know that we still are there, and 2026, they will see difference in terms of how we involve them, how we include them, so that they have a stake in the development of the country.
No, thank you so much, Dade SK and Memenda, for your thoughtful reflection. Just to wrap it up, maybe with one last question. We want this reflection to last even beyond this conversation. And so I think reflection must lead to action. What is the one thing, as we close, that you feel like all actors must sort of do to support civil society, to achieve some of these aspirations that we've talked about today?
You want to start with me? Or
Yeah.
why are you saying
because I'm the one being supported, so I'll say
you said the one thing. I don't know.
Yes.
Can I sneak in two?
Okay.
I think the first thing that I think I've been sort of going on about, and I keep on talking about it, is one, we need to plan together. Now, let me just unpack that. I'm not talking about, we come together, we talk, and then we have a little bit of a work plan for 2 years. No. We need to plan together to see the trajectory of the country, where we're saying, you talked about 2030, and we have the SDGs. For Lesotho, what does that mean? It has to be a plan that is resourced by national resources, where we're saying these are we're looking at 2030, we're looking at 2040, looking at 2050. This is where we want to see Lesotho, right? And this is the money that's available. And these are the ministries, departments that are responsible. And this is the role of civil society. And this is how they're going to be financed to be able to do this. Do you see what I mean? For me, that's what I mean when I talk about a plan that is inclusive, that is well thought out, and that is resourced, and that has got accountability, right? When the current government came into office in 2022, you remember that the Right Honorable the Prime Minister launched the accountability meetings, right, of ministers. Those accountability meetings were such a brilliant idea. And I believe that it's not just the ministers that should stand and say, this is what we're doing. I think civil society should be asked, so how much was provided? What have you done with it? So that also transparently, civil society can be held accountable, right? The UN, we have our UN info, but I don't know how many people know that you can go on the website and you can go in and look and see how much money is the UN bringing in, who are they working with, what are they spending it on, and what results are they achieving. It's actually there and it's open to the public, right? So my first thing is, a well-resourced plan. And then the second thing that I would say in terms of civil society at the national level, and they're not the enemy. I think they should be seen as partners. And therefore, their voice, their knowledge, their expertise, and what they bring to the conversation, I think needs to be valued, right? Civil society at grassroots level, community level, they have to be implementers. If you look at nutrition clubs, for example, that's civil society. They have to be implementing. And for us as the UN or any other international development partner, we should not find ourselves in a position where we are having to compete or displace civil society from implementation, right? That's my personal view, that if we find ourselves where civil society at any level is implementing and we're also trying to do, service delivery and all these things, then maybe we're not in the right place. So we need to build the capacity to deliver more efficiently and more impactful, right? And there are quite a number of examples that I can give you that I have seen across the country in terms of the capacity that we need to support civil society with. If we appreciate the value add, we don't see civil society as simply, making a lot of noise or being difficult, then I think that we can have more meaningful partnerships going forward.
Okay.
That's yes.
Thank you very much.
That's my take.
In the past, civil society.
She didn't ask me what I expect from civil society, but anyways, that's
yeah. In the past, civil society used to talk and talk and talk without grounded information. Today, that noise has been turned into an informed, evidence-based. So, things that we expect to see moving forward is, I will talk from UN, government and private sector, and from us as well, that truly implementing as one. And when it runs, it runs as a unified, not as independent agencies. And also, because of that, truly working together with civil society. Oftentimes, Amanda knows that I would say it is disheartening for us as civil society. When I am in Kanyaku, in Mkhotong, I see an UN agency alone, without a line ministry, without any civil society organization. Tanyaku is deep into the rural areas of this, and you see them there implementing and say, no, you've forgotten your role now. You are here because you are supporting either a ministry or one civil society that is implementing, and you're going to check as to what is happening. You have been saying to us, you are implementing. We want to see, we want to meet the people that you are supporting, not alone. Maybe it's because we lost it somewhere, so that there was a gap, and then they felt like that. Another aspect that now I'll come to government, that we also want to see accountability, but there is a law principle that says you don't come to court with unclean hands. So as civil society, we have begun to say you need to, when you criticize, when you want accountability, you need to say it with your head up, because you know that you yourself are accountable, and you need to have your books public, because we are using public money to do all these things. It should be on your website. That is, and within LCN now we have begun to say NGOs in good standing, and we have begun to implement the NGO. The NGO accountability framework that says, are you accountable? Are you accountable? And unfortunately, as we do that, some of the NGOs are very quick, so that by the time we get to them, they have done horrendous things, and we can see papers. We need to acknowledge that there are some within us that, and when that happens, as a coordinating body, that the name is also to say, you can't be speaking like this. Look at what is happening there. Look at what is happening there. So we now have a code of conduct that is going to be implemented from the coming AGM, which is next month. So with government, we need one thing that we need is that we have priorities in the NSDP, But when we budget, we have a budget on the 18th, I learned. But when we budget, you don't see that translating into the things that we have, according to research, things that have said these would drive the economy. And if you can concentrate on these two things and put them alone, you will see difference. But when we budget, you will see incremental budget that ministers will become, or last year it was 50, let me get 10% inflation, and today's 55. You see budget like that, going like that. And there is a lot of mismatch between what needs to get us through here. So it is our role to say, let us do that. And we had a meeting with Minister of Finance. She has acknowledged that moving forward, this is how they are planning to do that so that the country comes. And private sector now, as I end with the private sector, now I'll give you that. Private sector now, we need to start the collaborations we have had with them so that we can take leave on some of the things. You will see them for their products to be protected in the communities. Let's take, for instance, telecommunications agencies. They need to go to the villages to be talking to people about. So if we collaborate with that, because we are already there every other day. For them, they parachute on one day and then they are not there. And people, they know that they will come here after 2 years. So they mishandle so if we collaborate with them, we are there on a daily basis, and they know the importance of protecting some of these things. They will see that now their turnover now increases, and as a result, they can have leverage to support civil society on the basis of the gains that they will not have if we're not part of planning together, like you're saying with them.
And truly, I think the point that you made about accountability, I think, and your quoting of "you must come to equity with clean hands."
Yes.
I think it applies to all of us in this work.
Yeah.
I know that many years ago, when I used to work when I was a CEO of Christian Aid, we used to have management accounts published. Anybody can go and see where did you get your money from? What did you spend it on? As the chief executive, you claimed so many thousands. Where are the receipts? Yes. What were you claiming? Did you buy a bottle of water? Did you, what? And that was available. And I knew that I was under public scrutiny, yes. Right? And I knew that some of the money that it's taxpayers' money. It's people who are struggling, who are contributing to make sure that you're doing that work. So I really like the fact that, you're championing that and saying, we're not just demanding accountability from the UN, from government, from private. We are demanding it of ourselves. And I think that's going to be really important. And thank you for talking about moving with speed because their lives at stake, right? So, but when we move Kalibilo Lanswere, we have to remember that, that race when we're at school where you would tie, what was it called? Huh? You'd tie two people together.
Yeah.
If one of you was running not so good, it wouldn't work. You fall. So we ran Kalibilo Lanswere, but in rhythm. Yeah. And we have to play in concert and sing like one choir, but with the altos, the sopranos, and the others. I think it looks like we've taken up too much of your time, but I just want to say, thank you so much that you have been a fantastic partner to the UN, but to me, personally, I really respect the work that you do. And please don't stop now. You still
taking into account that at times things would be tough, and then
I know
it will be tough to talk.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
And that's what friends are for.
Yes.
We are friends who tell each other the truth.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And still live and go and have a meal together.
Correct.
Right. Now, I know that we still have to climb the mountain of Tababusil. So, but we are there. We are almost there. So let's keep walking.
Continue to be the ambassador that you be for the country.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much again, Amanda and DSK. I think through this episode, you really reminded us again that civil society is such a crucial part of a functioning society. And I think it also starting to paint a fuller picture, linking it to the conversation we had yesterday, that every actor has a role to play in Lesotho's development journey.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.